Hey everyone, Walter Crosby with Helix Sales Development, your host of Sales and Cigars. So we have another an episode that I was really excited about when we got it on the calendar. Joshua Conran from Deksia. Joshua was a guest. He was probably one of the first 5 guests that we had going back about a year and a half ago. So Deksia has made some huge strides in the last year and a half since we've talked. They've had huge growth. We talk about that. We talk about the entrepreneurial journey. We talk about sticking with our core values and really living those. So, you know, if you're an entrepreneur and you're really, you get stuck sometimes, this is an inspirational podcast because it talks about the hard work that goes into it. It's not easy. We're taking risks. That's what it's all about. So go grab a cocktail, go grab a cigar, strap in for another fun episode of Sales and Cigars. Thanks. So, Mr. Conran, welcome back to the program. I appreciate you. I think you were our 3rd guest in the original a couple years ago. Is that about right?
Seems about right. Is that all? Is that how long it's been?
It's been 92, episode 92 landed yesterday. So, I don't know. I don't want to do the math, but it seems
92 weeks?
Yeah, it's almost a couple years, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost a couple of years. Yeah, you're right.
So.
Good job. Glad to be here.
Thank you. And you were in the old school way where we just did recordings and nobody could see your cool barn and your kayaks and you smoking what are you smoking, a Helix?
I'm smoking a Helix, yeah. Yeah, I didn't actually realize we were recording, I would have, put some prosthetics around and
tidied up?
Yeah, spruced up the joint.
Yeah. Or
got my cutout of the John Deere behind me.
Yeah, no, I was trying to figure out what the one thing was, but I think it's part of your implement for the tractor, so.
Over here?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a snow blower up here in the Great White North.
Well, it'll come in handy with all the ice that we're getting. So, why don't we start with, normally I ask a guest to talk about their journey as an entrepreneur. We've kind of covered that a little bit. People can go back and hear some of your story. But I think just in the last 16, 18 months, because you're president, managing partner in Deksia. So why don't we start there, talk a little bit about how much you guys have figured out, how much you've exploded in the last year or so, because you've had some nice growth.
Yeah, we have. It's I think the number is if you go back 36 months, I think it's 400%, something along those lines in the last 3 years.
It's not bad.
No, it's great. And we're on Inc. I couldn't tell you what number. I should be able to, but I can't. And for the EOS crowd, so instead of all the titles, I'm the integrator for Deksia, which has been great and a big part, I would say, of our success. I don't know how many EOS implemented companies you work for. I know a few of them, but it's been a game changer for us.
We have a few that are EO members and that are running EOS, and we have some people that are running EOS that are not EO, members, because it's an operating system that's proven to work. But you get to, as an integrator, you get to manage the visionary's vision and the implementation. Why don't you talk a little bit, because some people don't know the parlance there. You're actually putting shit together and making sure it works.
Yeah. So the visionary is the CEO. If you were thinking typical titles, and the integrator is the president. So the more of an operator, oversees the operations. So my responsibilities are the leadership team, running the weekly meetings for the leadership team, the P&L, the revenue center drivers for the organization. So my sales director reports directly to me. My we have it structured so we have a director of accounts that reports directly to me. They're responsible for client relationships, client retention, client growth, client satisfaction scores, things like that. Finance, operations, HR are all in the integrator's purview.
So that's like 8 or 9 people that are direct reports.
I think it is actually 7.
Yeah, that's close. I wasn't really counting.
And I wouldn't want to go any more than that.
So, when you look at all those buckets, which one of those buckets are you most comfortable?
Oh, operations. Operations is a very comfortable.
Interesting. So, I mean, making sure that the
Trains are on time.
things get done the way. What also comes with a fireman's hat every once in a while, you're putting out fires.
Yeah, I do that. Less now than in the past, as we've grown a great team. We've had with that growth, we've had the opportunity to scoop up some great talent or attract some great talent during COVID. It was a great time for us
Yep.
with the uncertainty for a lot of organizations. A lot of people were looking, found themselves without jobs during some of the unfortunate, circumstances. And we went out aggressively looking for talent and landed quite a few of them. And that's been a big part of our growth as well, just adding to the organization, our horsepower. And then using the entrepreneur's operating system model to manage and structure all that growth. I don't know how entrepreneurs do it at a 400% clip over 3 years. And essentially, I mean, we're 100% last year. We're shooting for 100% this year. Without an operating system such as EOS to follow, I would be, I don't know, I'd be on the edge of
Burned out.
frazzled. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one of the bigger challenges, and that's why Gino created that, is to allow a company to have computer works with an operating system, right? And it can function at a high level, and businesses typically struggle when they don't have that structure to operate in. Call it a system, call it an operating system, call it a structure, whatever, but you have to have all those and move all those pieces together. Operations and finance, sales, the HR component, right? Because you stepped on the gas during COVID, with HR, right? You picked up business from a revenue perspective during that. You built structure so that you could continue to move forward. You spent money in a way that allows you to grow today, tomorrow, because of the things that you did over the last couple of years. And you had a roadmap to do it. And you have a roadmap going forward too.
Yes, and we started hitting EOS hard probably 2019, 2020. I'd been implementing it myself, self-implementing, which is not something I recommend unless you're just doing it to get to a point to where you can bring in an actual implementer. That's worth the value. But that was like 2019, and then I think, when we first engaged with you, Walter, that was 2019 or 2020, wasn't it?
I think it was, it had to be 19 because it was pre-COVID business. Because I was in your cool little building without a mask.
Right. So yeah, that's about the time where we were building the infrastructure. We were putting systems and processes in place, sales systems and processes, which Helix was helping us with. Figuring out what we were actually selling, the value we were actually offering, and how to communicate that. And then we went into COVID, and like everybody else, didn't know what we were doing. We were kind of making up the playbook as we went along, but we had, prior to that, put in a lot of systems and processes in place that really carried us through 2020. We came out the backside of 2020 with our sales engine stronger than it's ever been. We grew in 2020. I can't think of the actual numbers, but significantly in 2020 over 2019. And then we continued 2021. We just doubled down and kept tweaking the sales system, sales process, and
You also were
22
working
we
on
did the same
marketing
thing, and
too,
we've grown every year.
but you also tweaked the marketing and got that improved so you could have more people recognizing what you do. You got all that messaging worked on. I mean, you worked on a
Yep,
lot of stuff all at the same time. 400%
we did,
growth.
and we were able to. We were able to do it with help from partners like yourself, and utilizing the EOS as best we could, and the talent that we could attract um, with our value propositions, to potential client or potential employees.
So, and I think, I mean, it's a great story. I love to see these entrepreneurial organizations keep taking those steps forward, right? And it's a lot of things, right? You're working the system, and it's just a lot of things. But it's hard work. But you're clear about what it is that you're trying to do. You're clear about what those metrics are that you have to hit, and it's not 20. It's one or two things that you need to be able to hit in each one of those departments. When you have your operations L10 or your sales L10 or your leadership L10,
Hmm.
you got a really tight scorecard. And
Yeah, every
I
one of
think
them's
that's,
just got a few.
that's got to be, to me, when I step back and look at EOS, I think that's one of the things that is really, really super clear about why it's successful, is that there's not a lot of gray area. We agreed that this was the metric. Now we can change the metric, but we agreed that this is what it is that we're going to look at, and we're going to move forward and track that and make sure we're moving that needle. And as a group, you keep trying to help each other be successful with it, whatever department that is. And I
Yeah, and
think
we keep investing in them and growing it and tweaking it. And one of the things, actually, Aaron, the CEO, visionary of it, he put it the other day, I thought was fairly slick, was we're always striving for clean and neat. A lot of people like neat and orderly, systems, processes, for it to be comfortable. And what we've realized, which I mean I think is probably fairly obvious, but whatever could put it to words, was as we grow at the clips we're trying to grow, and when we're bringing on and talking to people about the work environment and what we're doing at Deksia and what we're striving to do, is like we don't really experience clean and neat for very long at that rate of growth, right? Because we're not selling the software and we're just trying to get more users. We're bringing in clients and we're offering services, and we need talent to provide a lot of those services. So we're growing systems and processes and products, and then an added dimension to that in marketing trails along with technology and trends is constantly changing as well. So you're always updating. We're always growing, looking for what our clients need and how we can innovate for that, and obviously also for ourselves. So as you go, the operating system does offer focus, but you're always going to be uncomfortable in that to grow, you're stretching some muscles somewhere all the time. So it's kind of like going to the gym. Get used to it.
Yeah, going to the gym is an analogy that I heard that makes a lot of sense. But the other one that I've heard about, because growth is uncomfortable and sometimes it's painful. So like when you think about a flower or a bud, right? That's all nice and safe inside there for that flower, and it's not until it becomes so uncomfortable that it's allowed to burst out and become this beautiful entity that's there, and there's a cycle there. You keep innovating.
And it starts all over again.
Yeah. As soon as the summer's over with and shit starts to die again, you got to go back and figure it out. But
Yeah.
you're not, like you said, you're not selling a piece of software that you can just keep putting people into. You do. And I'm not minimizing what you do, but you do the same things in a different way for every one of your clients, right? They have similar problems. You solve them in a similar way, but it has to be unique. The deliverable is unique to them. You have a process to do it. You're able to articulate your process. You're able to execute with a process. And that's what makes it interesting, is that you're executing on something new and different every time. Whether you're selling somebody or somebody's selling spray stuff that goes on the inside of a pipe to landscaping to cutting down trees, right? Those are all people you work with. It's you tweak it just for them, their market, their message. You make things beautiful. I was just explaining to somebody today that I showed him my old logo, which Aaron, I don't know, I think it was like 3 seconds. It's like that logo's awful. It's terrible, right?
At least he was kind.
Yeah, it was. He said it with a smile.
Yeah.
And I'd put, I thought it was cool. But when you guys redid my brand and redid my logo, and the reasons you did it, you educated me along the way and helped me see what it looked like, and then you deliver a brand and a brand guide. You have no idea how helpful that's become for me as a
Great.
Just to be able to no, go look at my brand guide. That's not my logo. You can't change it like that. Well, we just want to make the circle H thing a little smaller. No, that's not what it says. But it allows me to see that there's a standard and it needs to be protected. But that pivot forces somebody like myself to rethink how they look at their business and to make them think about it in a different way. That makes us feel more like a company, because that logo was mine. It was personal. It meant something to me, but it didn't mean crap to anybody else. Blue Smoke Consulting. Okay, you and I both know that the smoke that's floating around our screens is blue. But what does that say to somebody else, right?
Yeah.
And that's what your team
I'm
is
glad.
able to articulate.
Yeah, and everybody offers logos and everybody offers SEO and everybody offers selling PPC and websites and all of the things that we do. We don't offer any products that are any different than anybody else other than the system that we've developed to select the ones for you based on your individual needs and goals as an organization, and then in what order and to what degree to implement those.
What's going to move the needle for? Yeah, well, you're going to set it up so that it's moving the needle for that person, which is different than the other person that you had a meeting with in the morning. They're all similar tools, but it's different. And if you don't have that system to navigate that evaluation, that strategy, Adam comes up with a strategy, but it's based on your system to look at what they really need to accomplish.
And the
so
system
it's
makes sure, like in your case, like we made sure that we were talking to you about you and what you knew about your organization, right? You have the expertise in your field and know where you want to go and what you want to accomplish more so than we ever could. So we take that shared knowledge from you as your industry expert and our shared knowledge with our industry and our expertise over the decades, and we couple them together to come up with a unique strategy, a unique way to implement all of these pieces, a unique way to come up with your logo, a unique way to come up with your messaging, a unique way for you to implement any sort of the traditional advertising means or what's now become traditional advertising means that are out there to achieve your goals and whatever your timeline is and whatever your budget is. So and you helped show us that, Walter.
Oh, I appreciate that. But I think that Aaron said something like a visionary kind of statement where you're bringing Madison Avenue, right? I'm old, so I get to talk about Madison Avenue as a thing, like Mad Men. You're bringing that creativity, that copy, that standard to small to mid-sized market and giving them the same thing without charging them $10 million retainer, right? You're not charging
Yeah,
$10
that
million.
was the goal when yeah, no, we're not. We didn't charge you $10 million, I don't think. If
I
if
don't
we
think.
did, you have an outstanding debt.
Yes.
No, we that was the onset. Dexia's we went into it um, talking about it and we wanted to do one. I wanted to make sure I was doing something I was proud of. I've been in a multitude of industries. I didn't start in marketing. I wanted to make sure I was doing something I was proud of, and I had realized through many different career paths that I wanted to really play a part in people succeeding, individuals mostly, but then also that applies to entrepreneurs. I've been involved in the entrepreneur community for a long time, and that's we figured out 2019 of all of our ventures that we had going that really this thing allowed us, this thing called Deksia allowed us the biggest vehicle to make a positive impact on our staff, our team members, our clients, and our clients'
The community.
employees, really the community, and that's so we get a lot of driver out of doing that. And by bringing a service from Madison Avenue, as you put it, that because the way that we do our system isn't entirely unique, but it's pretty unique to small to medium sized businesses in that one organization doesn't generally offer a comprehensive service like that. You have a marketing director if you are large enough. Otherwise, you're just a CEO or entrepreneur that has to manage your own marketing, and you're figuring out a direction and you're saying, okay, somebody go over here and get a digital advertiser. And maybe that digital advertiser does Google and maybe some SEO work, but then you need a web designer and a web developer. And maybe that's the same organization, maybe it isn't, but then you need photo and video, which is someplace else, and all of these other, print, all of these other services. And they don't necessarily play well in the sandbox. They're not playing out of the same playbook. They're not using the same information to move ahead. They might be, all of them have some sort of onboarding for you, but they're not all talking to each other and working off of, the best they got is to work off of your brand guidelines if you have one.
Which
But they
most of us
don't
don't.
have one strategic creative agency, which is one of the uniques that Deksia touts we have, is that we take that strategy, that combined, shared knowledge, and we put together a strategy, but we're also creative. So we add a little bit of science to the creative process in that we're making sure that we're using key performance indicators. We have planned accountability, which is also rare for our industry at the level that we serve our clients, right, at small to medium sized businesses, is we're scheduling in advance monthly, every 4 to 6 weeks, what we call a pulse meeting with our clients that's structured. They can put their issues on there. We will address the issues. We come out with accountability. Our clients also come out with accountability, what they need to do, what we need to do to achieve this common goal that we share. And with those three things, we've really seen a lot of growth and a lot of impact. And it's been a lot of fun, as well as there's been a lot of pain and stretching in the growth, as you had said earlier.
But if you're not experiencing pain and uncomfortableness, right? It doesn't have to be like you're bleeding and going to die, but it's uncomfortableness. If you're not experiencing that, you're not pushing hard enough, in my not so humble opinion. And one of the things I picked up from you and Aaron and the team, frankly, is this entrepreneurial spirit and that idea of community and helping, because you're helping entrepreneurs, which are people, right? They're people first that have dreams and visions. But if they realize their dream and vision through something that you're doing, then you're actually helping not just them, but all of their people, their staff, their employees, all of their vendors, all of the people that they go buy lunch with, that whole community that extends. And you're purposefully, I've been in your L10s where you guys have talked about that. It's on your VTO. It's a real thing that you talk about it much deeper than I do, because I'll reference, I want to get paid in for services, right? That's part of what we do. But the joy that keeps me going isn't the check as much as it is watching somebody like, oh, get it. So when right before this podcast recording started, you signed in when I was talking to a salesperson, and she was like, I have a problem I need to talk to you about. And, with a series of 8 questions, I helped her see that she already knew the answer, right? And she knew what to do. She just needed that oomph, that little confidence. And
Mm-hmm.
to me, that's awesome, right? One, because she picked up the phone and called. 2, that she really knew the answer. She just needed to be, affirmation of what she had already knew, because we've talked about it. And she knew it was the right thing. She just wasn't, she just needed that little push, like, just go do what you know to do. And to me, that's like, that's a huge milestone in the matter of 90 days, where she's buying in and believing in what she's been being taught by their CEO, and by me helping her see some of these things, looking at the world differently. That to me is fun, and you're taking that to 3 or 4 levels higher than what I'm doing. So kudos to
We may be
you and
having
the
the
Deksia team.
same effect. Same effect, maybe different measurables, but yeah. And it
It
we
is,
live we
but
we do live by it, and it does work. And I would be remiss to say that we've experienced all of the growth strictly organically. I don't want to give off the wrong impression. We've done a couple of strategic acquisitions and mergers in there as well, and we're continuing to look at more. So we have a multi-pronged growth strategy with client retention, client growth, acquisition, and inbound sales through our marketing channels, and then outbound through our sales department, business development executives.
so that's why Aaron's kind of like Jack Welch, right? He's kind of buying this group over here, buying this put over here, and then it's like, all right, Josh, go integrate these people into our little world and make sure that they fit. It's a real thing, and I think that's part of it. But getting to that level where you can go out and make acquisitions and bring those people in and take that on, that's a different level in and of itself. So, like I said, kudos. So let's. I've got one question before I want to pivot.
Yeah.
You, I'm going to just grab this bottle. So our guests, our listeners, you gave me this bottle the other day, right? It's a little.
I know if it was nicer weather, I was actually going to try to come over to your place today so I could actually be drinking that right now. Because I haven't.
Well, unfortunately, you better hurry up, because I don't drink a lot by myself, but I'm drinking by myself. It's like High West and Prisoner, the Prisoner's share of it's a super high end, hard to difficult bourbon to find. That's what I've been drinking. But the weird thing is that this is coming out of Utah, right? Where Kentucky is where, quote unquote, bourbon is the heritage from. And I just wanted to say thank you to you guys for that. It's a beautiful little bottle and amazing juice inside it. So thank you. And anybody that can get their hands on it, that's willing to step up and pay the freight for that, it's some awesome,
Well, I don't
awesome
think
stuff.
it's not so bad if you actually are in Park City at High West and they actually have it. It's getting it outside of Park City, I think, is the real issue. I wasn't sure how you were going to receive it, how pure you were going to be on the geography of the distillery.
I'm all about. It's the same thing for wine with me. I don't care, like, if somebody says it's an amazing bottle of wine. If it doesn't taste good to me, I don't. To me, that's what it's about. Do you enjoy it? And this is This is awesome. Like the Willet that you have, that is my
We're on
favorite. Yeah,
this one or the rye? Yeah,
the
actually it's
bourbon,
a
the rye
very
is great,
smooth. Okay, I've got that
but
one in the house. I started that the other night.
this is taking the place of that being my favorite bourbon.
That is high praise.
It is. So
We've earned a place on your shelf for an indefinite amount of time until somebody dethrones us, I guess.
so that's the thing. It's not on a shelf. It's going to be locked away in the back where nobody can get
Ah,
their hands on it. It's not a mistake, because every once in a while I have people in here that just think they can reach in there and pull out a bottle. This will be locked in the back of the humidor. So I kind of want to talk about I mean, you've had 4% growth, and we've talked around why. I think I think you nailed the idea that it's all of the things working together, right? Being able to do delivery, to be able to create the go find the people that raise their hand, go close that business, go create the delivery, manage those accounts, make sure that you got the staff and the infrastructure in place to do it. It and managing that piece along the way without having a lot of breakdowns is huge. But what do you think? I mean, take a minute to answer this. But what do you think that the biggest challenge in all of that was to get to that growth piece from the integrator chair seat?
yes. Well, I don't want to give the impression that we didn't screw a lot of things up along the way, Walter, because we certainly have a library of missteps.
If you're not making mistakes, right? What did Oscar Wilde say? Experience is the name I give to my mistakes. And I've always created that corollary is that I'm a really experienced guy, right? Because we've all made mistakes, and that's what
I'm
entrepreneurs
less
are.
elegant in it. I call it stupid tax.
Okay, but the principle is the same. You know, we learn from them. We don't keep making the same ones.
No, so the hardest thing, man, there's so many that come, but if I had to try to put a point on it, it's focus on the few key things, right? We, as a business
Scorecard.
leader, I don't care if you're the scorecard sounds simple, right? Simple to say, simple to spell, simple to draw a picture of it. It's really hard to put the right things on there that are going to have the proper effect for the period of time that you're looking for them to. So it's not only just figuring out the right ones, it's the right ones at the right time. So some industries, I've not found this to be true. There may be some EOS purists out there and implementers, listening that will disagree, and hopefully they write you a letter you can share with me on this. But the figuring out the right things on the scorecard to focus on for that 90 days to accomplish what you need to do, and actually allowing them to provide for you to grab that focus and chase after it, for me, is the hard part, because there's not just shiny objects and squirrels coming at you every day. As a business leader, you've got fires popping up. You've got client emergencies, legit. You've got pandemics that hit. How do you pivot on your scorecard, and when do you pivot on these
Acquisitions.
things? You've got, well, acquisitions can be a little planned, so you've got that at least, that's not being thrown at you generally. You have a little time to plan for those. You can do your diligence. You've got market adjustments that are happening that you have no control over, and unless you have a crystal ball, you're not going to nail every time. So making sure that you're adjusting it, focusing it, have the proper amount of rigidity, but along the way, the right amount of openness to necessary change is dance that is not, I don't think, a science. It's more nuanced than that, but takes a lot of discipline, awareness, and I've screwed it up a lot. And I think that's the hardest part. The right things to focus on at the right time.
So I'm somebody that kind of tries to distill something down to its core. So what that happens at a quarterly with Ken for you, or your implementer, not your implementer. Yeah, your implementer, right?
Implementer, yeah, Ken Bogard.
So that getting that right, and it's not always perfect, but once everybody buys into that, you got to keep moving forward. And those,
yeah, and he doesn't set our scorecards.
He doesn't, but he facilitates it.
Yeah, he facilitates our rocks, obviously. So that's the quarterly that you're measuring. Scorecards don't have to change on the quarterly. So yeah, the rocks are another piece I didn't even necessarily mention. Picking out rocks is actually really hard too. Depending on what you're looking for, right? So if you're looking for 12 and 20% growth, it's a different process, maybe more intense process, than if you're looking for 100% growth. It is a little different. So when you're looking for 100%,
it's a lot
growth,
different.
Yeah, it's
a whole different conversation. And
and it's more intense.
It's more intense. There's emotions there. People are like, I can't. What, are you crazy? Like, how are we going to do that? I've been on a couple of them, and I've been in the like, are you crazy conversations. But I think that having the right people in those seats for those conversations and being able to have conversations afterwards about that, because I remember one conversation that I had with Aaron after a quarterly where it was pretty intense, but it was, to me, it was like, I remember I came home a couple of days later and like I shared with my wife, it's like, I've never been able to do that, have that much headbutting.
Healthy conflict.
But I mean, in the moment, it's like intense. But what's, to me, the beautiful part is both trying to get to the same place, right? You have passion to do that. And if you don't have that passion, right, to be, you got to have rules about, throwing shit at people and the kind of healthy conflict.
We do now. We didn't in the early years.
But I mean, that becomes through experience and trust of getting there. But to me, that's part of the process and working through that. But I mean, literally, he was sitting in my car, and it's like, why do we have these conversations? Like, because we both give a shit, dude. Right? We do. And I remember we went on and had like that weird little steak dinner we had at that place that was sort of outside, but not outside, on a deck. I think it was on a golf course.
Yes, Blythefield Country Club.
Yeah. No. It wasn't Blythefield. It was a restaurant. Wasn't Blythefield. I'm trying to remember the name of it, and I can't. So, but to me, that ability for you guys to navigate all of that with people coming in and out and moving around and trusting that I think is a big part of your success, because that was what I had in my head. It was what you guys do in those quarterly meetings, and that taking the visionary ideas and distilling them into something that's practical, agreeing on it, and then working on it and moving it forward, and knowing when you're off track or on track.
When we came up with our 10-year vision, which is an EOS thing, right? There's other things that do it too. So, but the 1 year, the 3 year, and the 10-year, when we started implementing first, I mean, softly, like I learned about L10s and I started doing L10s. I built an L10 for the company. We decided that we're going to keep this, and we started doing it, and we put in place the 10-year target, which is a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal, if you're familiar with the term, we had no idea how we were going to get there. Felt it was completely improbable, unlikely, and astronomical. Like, we just didn't know. There was no roadmap. None of us had ever done it before. We didn't know anybody who had done it before, but we put it out there, and that matures in
Comes due.
2020, in 2026, and it is well within reach.
Oh, you're going to blow it out of the water.
Crazy.
You're going to blow it out of the water. What you thought was impossible will be surpassed.
Yeah, so we're coming up, and we actually started the conversations. Now we've got to think about. So you redo your 1 year every year. You redo your 3 year every year. You don't redo your 10 year, but every 10 years. We've got to come up with a new 10 year, and we don't know how crazy it's going to be. And actually, this time, as opposed to being afraid of it, I'm excited about going through the process. Were you there when we came up with and started implementing? Came up with is probably strong, but started implementing, throwing around the term "we can if" to overcome this. Are you crazy? Like, no, we can if to change the mindset. And so then the non-visionaries in the room, the less passionate or maybe aggressive or outspoken people in the room, we now all have a different way to participate. And that was actually, that stupid little thing was something we used for years, and we still bring it up. Now it's more of a reflex. That type of thinking, I don't care what level of business you're in. If you're if you're a sales professional, if you're an account manager, if you're looking for a job, we can if. Like, sky's the limit.
It's from a sales perspective, and that's kind of where I come from. We can if is a game changer for mindset, for somebody's sales DNA, for somebody's ability, their attitude is a different perspective. It's like, well, okay, we can if, and I'll tell you, I've used that 2 weeks ago. Personal life with my wife. We're thinking about. Well, we're not thinking about it. We're doing it. Redoing the kitchen. Stupid amount of money. And she's like, we can't do this. I'm like, we can if. So what? We can if. And
if what?
It got her over the hump. It changed her thinking. And I didn't realize that till you just said that. It came out of my mouth, and you guys get credit for that. It stopped her in her tracks and made her think, okay, what would have to happen? All right, and we walked through that, and it's like, we can do that. It works. So if it works there, it works in business. You've proven it. So, I mean, that might be the gold little nugget at 42 minutes and 49 seconds into this conversation that can change the game for some other entrepreneur out there.
That is something you can literally implement right now. It's so simple. It brings everybody to like the same place, the same mindset, and it allows different people to come up with solutions that maybe they're normally not apt to do for whatever reason, right? I use it all the time. Even I use it on myself before I go into like, oh shit, no, hold on. We can if we had 2 staff members here. Okay, we can't get 2 staff members. We can, talent's impossible. We couldn't have them onboarded in time. We can't afford them. Okay, but we can if. Oh, we can if we get somebody who shares our values, is, fractional or part-time, and is already a current expert in the field. Okay, now we know who we're looking for, and we have some ideas. Okay, We can't find them. All right, we can if. Where do we look? You just run through it.
It borders on NLP, neuro linguistic programming, right? So there was a video I watched a long time ago, Tony Robbins, who uses NLP. He calls it something else, so he doesn't have to pay Dr. Bandler a lot of money. But he was talking to a lady who was telling him why she couldn't do something. And he took a glass of water and threw it in her face. And then, like, go on. And she was like, what? Well, you said you couldn't do this, right? And he did it 3 times. Like, I would have punched him in the head. But we can if is that water. We can if is that is a slap in the face to get somebody to okay. And it's not it isn't a glass of water and it isn't a slap in the face, but it does change the brain to be like, I'm just asking a different question. And the question we ask ourselves, if we ask ourselves a shitty question, we're going to get a shitty answer. But if we ask ourselves a question like, we can if, we start to think about things in a different perspective. So
and you'll have to do it a few times. So asking why the why 5 times. Oh, why? It's kind of like that, right? Well, we can if we came up with $1 million. Okay, well, we can come up with $1 million if we did X, Y, and Z. We went and got an investor. We got it from the bank. We did it ourselves. We cut costs. We did an acquisition.
Or you did all of the above to make it happen, right?
Right.
You got a quarter over here, you got a quarter over there, you got a quarter over there, and you got a quarter there, and I got $1 million. It presents itself, and all because we thought about something differently. And I think that's I think that's something that from an entrepreneurial perspective, you could crystallize what you've done. You could do a talk about that as to how you went about getting the 400% growth in a short period of time, right? Maybe you don't do the talk, maybe Aaron does the talk, but
that might have been the catalyst for it, like just that simple mind shift. Now, there's a lot. I don't want to oversell this. There's a lot of rocks and scorecard numbers that come out of that. We can if, right?
Oh, it's not easy. Nobody said it's easy.
All right, you might want to edit this out of your video, Walter. I know how you feel about it.
So that's an aggressive burn of a cigar, but that is not the biggest torch you have.
No, it's just the most practical one I have within reach.
Because it's icy and you don't want to go out to the truck to get your proper. So we don't recommend that for cigar smokers to go get a propane torch to blow up your cigar, because what the flame is what.
Yeah, it's called the Burn-O-Matic.
Burn-O-Matic, okay. But a flame is what causes the cigar to create bitterness. A little tip I learned the other day, searching around on YouTube, was when we keep the flame on the cigar, that increases its bitterness. So the less time we get there, the better. So a little, torching at the end to kind of get it going, and then, drawing on it, and then blowing on the end of it to make sure it's properly lit. Or you can blow it up with a big piece of propane.
Come on now, somebody can look at that. That was like what, 3 seconds?
Yeah, it's intense. What are we smoking now?
Helix.
Oh, all right.
I love your cigars. You have ruined me for it's the everyman's all day, anytime cigar.
I appreciate that, but I think that's the cigar that we go to. It's the reason we smoke cigars. Sure, a Davidoff or a Padron 26 or something, or 64. Yeah, those are great. But to enjoy the idea of a cigar with a bourbon or coffee or whatever it is that you're doing with it, that
Sunset.
to me, that's the cool thing, is that this works with just about anything.
Yeah, I frequently use. So speaking of linguistic programming, NLP.
NLP.
Yeah. I use it on myself as well. With I use Helix as like I'm taking a Helix. I'm gonna go sit, chill out, contemplate, right? And I look at it like, okay, I'm gonna grab a Helix. I'm gonna take a Helix on the deck at twilight. The wind's calm, the animals are calming down, the light's changing. Especially in the summer and the spring, the greens are seemingly more vivid in the woods at that time, and sitting there and having a contemplative Helix.
Well, I've been on that deck at that time, watching the sun go down and kind of watching the woods go to sleep, and wind themselves down. Those are, you got a great vantage point there. You're in the barn now, which is another great spot. It's a little bit more, it's a less colorful but it's a little more practical when there's an ice storm going on your deck.
Yeah, the deck wouldn't be, that'd be rowdy. That'd be interesting space to be for this conversation. But now that we've established that growth is seemingly, is seamless and easy, and there's a system for everything, are we good? Like this was a walk in the park?
I think easy in entrepreneurship, they're not the same thing. Easy is in entrepreneurship. Easy is going to get a job and working for somebody in a corporate setting, which has its challenges, don't get me wrong, but I think, I'm quoting Jenny from the EO Detroit chapter.
Yeah.
We're unemployable.
She's incredible.
Yeah.
She's legit unemployable, though. She's awesome.
Well, I have a tendency, I agree with her, because I don't think many people in that room, there's exceptions, but most of the entrepreneurs who are really an entrepreneur, they want to take the risk, right? They want to go out and fail or win by their own actions, and
yeah,
and we want that danger. If you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much space, as far as I'm concerned.
I've had it oversimplified as if you're the difference between leadership and entrepreneurship, and if you use those two terms, is a propensity for risk. Like as an entrepreneur, you're putting it all on the line. I was
every day
fortunate or unfortunate enough to be an entrepreneur and to be in the beginning of my careers, or the middle of, the first quarter, let's say, of my professional careers in 2008, 2009, 2010. And the propensity for risk, those were rough years for some of us. And it was rowdy. Awesome. I wouldn't change it. So I feel the same way. The COVID challenge was, I can't wait till people start writing books and producing movies and TV shows about this. It was a huge cultural change. And just to give a shout out, we mentioned EO a few times, but when it was over in Italy, one of the things that Aaron and I did through our EO network through EOS Michigan and then through all around the world, is what they shared is playbooks that entrepreneurs were putting together in China, in Italy. Before it ever came across the pond, we had our hands on playbooks that we could slightly modify and implement. So before we ever got handed lockdowns, we had if this then that scenarios put into place because of it. And it was one of the best executed things that we've ever done professionally because of somebody else handed it to us.
It's part of the network. It's part of being the brotherhood and sisterhood of like-minded people sharing their information and not thinking it's a zero-sum game. Being out there and taking risk and saying, hey, this worked and this didn't work. COVID was to avoid political interpretations of COVID. It sucked. Businesses that were struggling, it sucked. Some of them didn't have choices because of what rules were laid down. But I think the ones to me that, like, my daughter graduated high school with a drive-through graduation process. Instead of being at the Detroit Opera House and having this beautiful setting, we're in a parking lot driving through with her we couldn't even get out of the car, right? Her first year in college, her classes were all Zooms. And those professors could barely teach when they're in a classroom, let alone, in a Zoom. Because, she's like, they don't seem like they want to be there.
Well, I'm sure the colleges provided you a discount for her tuition.
Oh, God. Yeah, that was funny when I brought that up.
Okay.
Like, they're not going to classes. You're requiring them to stay in the dorm, right? It was a beautiful thing where she's like, "Hey, Dad, I think I might have COVID. I need to go get tested." And I'm like, "Okay, got to do what you need to do because you have a roommate. Let's think about how we get tested. You can go to CVS, get tested, and then we can decide how we handle this, right? We can get you a hotel room. You can come home. You can stay in the room, right? But we'll decide what's right. Or you can go get tested through the university, and then you'll do what they tell you to do." So she opted for the latter. So she got tested. She was positive. She told her roommate. Roommate was fine. But 20 minutes later, they were picking her up and taking her to a dorm that was like she was in the new one, right? Beautiful, everything was wonderful. And they moved her to a cinder block room that was dark and dank that was going to be torn down, but they were just using it for COVID. And they would bring them trays of food, knock on the door. Guys were wearing hazmat suits and leave the food on the doorstep. And she was taking pictures of the food.
It sounds familiar to other times in history, but I'm thinking that it's going to get political.
Yeah. Well, where it went was after about 3 days, she's like, "Dad, they're not returning my phone calls to university. I'm feeling better. I'd like to get out of here." And I'm like, "I told you, if you go, you're going to have to play by their rules." She says, "Well, there's nobody downstairs." Like, this was like 3 days later. She says, "There's nobody downstairs. I think I can leave." I'm like, "Yeah, you probably can leave. You can definitely walk out. They're not going to arrest you. But what happens after you leave?" "What do you mean?" "Well, do they kick you out of school? Do they kick you out for the semester? Do they make you leave campus? What's the ramifications of your decision?" So she found out that if she left, she would have been kicked out of school for violating their COVID policies that had just been created. It was like a little taste of like working for the corporation and following these silly rules. But as an entrepreneur, we don't want to do that. We want to be able to do what makes sense. We want some structure. We want to think about things, but we want to be able to make our own decisions and follow through. And I think she got a little taste of that as 19-year-old. But those kids all suffered through that, and they're still suffering through it to a certain extent. Some schools are still making kids wear masks. So it's as close as I'm getting to politics.
I'll abstain.
Yeah. Thank you. How far do you smoke these helixes down? You take the label off and then what? Fingers getting burned? What's your barometer?
Yeah. Here's the last one.
All right. So let's kind of land here. Tell the audience, because I mean, you got a great company, you got a great service you provide. Who's a really good fit? Talk about the message that you want to give to somebody that might be listening that could be a good fit for Deksia, that they should call you, that you can help them. Your ideal client profile.
So, company that's 15 to 250 employees. It's a rough outline. That's looking to grow. Continental United States has a compelling reason.
What does grow mean?
Like, they have to be passionate. Grow their organization. So we've had a number of our clients over the last, 5 or 6 years now, probably. We have a fair bit of engagement with them around branding and messaging from a cultural standpoint and a talent growth and retention piece. But the main reason why we engage with clients is they want to grow financially. Clients, generally, they're looking to grow. And they need a compelling reason. Going through marketing with Deksia isn't as easy as marketing gets. You can just go hire a digital firm and tell them what to do. And you can redo your website and hire somebody and tell them what to do. Deksia will do what you want them to do because you're the boss, but we're going to tell you what we think you need to do based on our shared knowledge that you've provided us going through our process, our onboarding process. And you have to be bought into the end goal as well. We're going to be very bought into it, and we need you to be bought into it. And those are the best partners for us. We've had success stories with clients, right? We talked earlier about the effect with generational wealth change, right? But then also other organizations where things didn't go so well, not necessarily from a marketing standpoint, but from outside circumstances. But because we had a shared knowledge with them of what their goals were and who they were in a relationship with them, to actually strategically partner with them on these things, we're put in a position, we're allowed a position to consult on we can if scenarios with our clients when they're dealt a rough hand that may be outside of their control, right? I mean, we just recently had one where a client works with a large retailer, and the large retailer hands down
using their big boot.
Big, giant boot. This is your deal was X, now it's Y, and it applies immediately, and rightfully so, put this client into a crisis mode that because of the relationship, because they had a compelling reason to grow, and because they partnered with us and we had a shared knowledge together, came to us, and we were able to come up with some solutions for them and us to achieve their goals as best as we could under the circumstances and with the best possible outcome for the future, and still comply with what was being handed and demanded of them. It was one of the best bad scenario outcomes I've been in quite a while because of that relationship and that shared knowledge that we had together. And other companies that engagements I've had in the past where that didn't exist, it's crisis. There's no thought of we can if and shared knowledge, and it's just handed down. This is what it is, and there's no strategic creative that we can bring to the game for them, and it's just not a great partnership. So through companies that have that shared knowledge with us and strategically partner with us, we are able to actually deliver consistent results even in uncertain times, and it's a fulfilling, profitable for both parties, ideally, relationship.
I mean, I know I know a little bit about that situation you're talking about. So without giving away the details, you had a client that was handed a shit sandwich that came to you and said, I need to pivot and stop doing these things quickly. And you were able to say, give us 24 hours to come up with an idea, not because you were trying to just save your account, but you were trying to save their strategy and help them achieve their goals, even though they had to dine on a shit sandwich for a short period of time. So it's that there's a level of commitment there that you have when you really truly partner with somebody, that there's this relationship, and I think that particular company will be a Deksia client for an incredibly long time because you helped him solve a real problem that he didn't think was solvable.
Yeah, that's where I started with it too, Walter. Well, maybe not started there, but towards the end, that's where I ended up. Yeah, but I mean, it was a big deal. It was huge numbers that we were dealing with, percentage-wise, for them and for us. And because we knew what we knew, because we were strategically partnered with them, and we weren't just a la carte tactics, right? We weren't just building a website. We weren't just doing this, and they would have just handed down, nope, this is done. Here's the terms of our contracts. We're out of it after that. Because we knew what they were trying to accomplish this year and next year, we were able to listen to their concerns, the terms of the new agreements that they had been force-fed, to come up with something that would protect as best we could their long-term goals, protect us as well, and they were open. We had those open conversations with them. They knew what they were asking of us. That we came up with a best-case scenario with our team and theirs. I couldn't be prouder or happier with it for the bad scenario that it was. And then I looked at it like, wow, yeah, this client is very grateful for what we did, but I'm looking at it now in that not only did we ingratiate ourselves with them because of the relationship we had, they actually ingratiated themselves with us because of the trust and respect that they showed our team. A lesser engaged client would have just handed down, nope, boom, we're done, right? They wouldn't have entertained it. They wouldn't have had the respect to understand what they were asking of us and what it meant for our organization and for the people at our organization. It's not just a dollar amount. It's jobs. It's security. It's all of these things that we all individually care about. And they were aware of it. Yeah, community. And they recognized it, participated in it, were open to it. And we came up with an elegant solution for all parties concerned, with an eye for the future growth and goals of that organization. It's just a great success story of a relationship as far as I'm concerned right now.
So, I mean, you really want a company that has that, the hit those demographic numbers, right? That's important. But it's at the end of the day, they need to be committed to partnering and working through the good times and the bad times and solving those bigger problems and being honest, right? Because if you can't be honest, like you're not gonna. There's no way to create a good relationship. There's no way to create a good outcome if we're working with half a story.
No, Patrick Lencioni's, the 5 dysfunctions of a team apply to professional engagements just as well as they do as your professional team. And if you can seek that out with any, and I don't care if it's a marketing firm or what, if it's your, sales consulting to Helix or any relationship you have where there's an exchange, if you can apply that. My team, what I'm looking at, I'm watching from my team is now fit to go to battle for this company. And we took a huge haircut, but because they handled it with trust and respect.
Didn't throw
my
up
team
their
will
hands.
fight for them for years to come and give them anything they ask for with trust and respect. It was an incredible relationship exchange to participate in.
Yeah,
from both sides.
It's a great story for everybody, the client, the internal people, the Deksia as a whole. And it's not permanent. The situation will change, and you'll go back to where the original strategy and amp it up. But you're keeping the ball rolling forward. It's a beautiful story, and there's probably a TED Talk in there someplace with how that's created, and if you could crystallize that in 7 minutes.
It would take somebody more elegant and smarter than me to put that together. I can read it. Putting it together might be difficult.
Give it to Aaron. He'll come up with it. All right. Well, I appreciate I love our conversations, whether they're sitting over a steak on a deck or in the barn with a cigar and just talking smart. I lost a good friend of mine a couple weeks ago, and that was one of the things that he would say. Let's go grab a cocktail. Let's go grab a cigar and talk smart. And to me, it was a euphemism that he brought to the party. But it kind of reminds us of my conversations with you, where they kind of meander around, but we come to a place where there's some nuggets that are useful and remind us of things that we know and may have just kind of put in the back of our head. So you're gonna have to get yourself over here, though, because I don't know how much longer this is gonna last.
Well, it depends. Let's watch the weather. We know now. I can. You're only 35 minutes away, depending on weather.
Yeah. So just jump in your little plane. All right, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. Best way to reach Joshua and the Deksia team?
Deksia.com, DKSIA.com. All the information's there. If you want my direct information, reach out to Walter. He's got all my digits.
All right, man. Thank you.
Thanks, Walter.
To get your copy of Walter Crosby's new book, The 7 Critical Mistakes CEOs Make with Their Sales Organization That Stop the Company from Scaling, follow the link in the show notes or go to Amazon.com. Thank you for listening to Sales and Cigars with Walter Crosby of Helix Sales Development. For more on Sales and Cigars, remember to like, share, and subscribe. Sales and Cigars, produced by thepodcastproshop.com.